Alright, so this is going to be a video with two topics. First of all, it's going to be about my thoughts on X-Men Dark Phoenix, and it's going to be a little bit of a comparison between Endgame and X-Men Dark Phoenix. Alright, so before we move on, I just want to say I want to talk about what Endgame did right, and what X-Men Dark Phoenix did wrong, because both of them have extremely high stakes. And I'll be talking about both Infinity War and Endgame because I consider those to be a package deal when it comes to the end of that 11-year MCU run. Alright, so let's get started. Uh, Basically, my problems with X-Men Dark Phoenix is that it has no stakes. I mean, there are stakes, except you feel like there's none. In fact, most of the story is very boring. It has a structure in which I understand how they got. You you set up Jean Grey's character, you set up her sadness about how she has this power but she can't control it, so she goes to different people for support, and she ends up uh, deflecting these people because of her power and her temper in a little way. And she gets picked up by Jessica Chastain, who seems to embrace her, even though she's a little freakish in her own mind. But overall, it turns out Jessica Chastain a good does not have good intentions for Jean Grey. So Jean Grey realizes that she has a family that helps her and protects her on the train, and that's how it ends. Now, oh, this movie fucking sucks, man. It fucking I remember I was watching it with a friend, and the moment the credits rolled, I turned to him and I laughed out loud because my friend was absolutely dumbfounded. He he didn't understand how this movie was made this way, and I'm just gonna dissect some things that I think were wrong, that were needed. Uh, Before we delve into some of the specifics. All right. Obviously, the Avengers Infinity War saga did right was that they set up a lot of these characters beforehand. Um, Beforehand, exactly. Uh, and I really also think because they kind of didn't really set up, they teased Thanos throughout the movies, but they also set up these really big fan favorites like Loki and Thor, and the way they introduced Thanos was they absolutely decimated all the fan favorites, Hulk, Loki, and Thor. So that was a great way to kind of make the audience go like, "Holy shit, who is this character?" For those of the people who don't know about Thanos and how much of a big deal he is. Now, you really get that sense that Jean Grey is such a big deal when she kind of overpowers Charles Xavier. And that, I think, was a good aspect because we've been set up for 4 movies now that Charles Xavier is, well, the whole entire X-Men, that Charles Xavier is a big deal and he's a really powerful mutant. So the way he kind of is overpowered by Jean Grey is nice. However, the only cast that gets to shine are those from First Class. Beast had a great moment when Mystique died. Mystique, she had some moments before that I wish were a little bit more developed, such as her argument with Charles Xavier and what the argument was about how what he does isn't actually good for the mutants, or is it all because Charles is some self-pretentious asshole? I like the way that storyline was going, but she just got killed off so suddenly. without any more development. So that was kind of sad, but it wasn't really as satisfying a death. And it wasn't really shocking because the trailer kind of spoils it. I don't know how people picked up on that so well. Um, anyways, yeah, so a lot of the first class members are not there, and instead we have a group of cast members such as Cyclops, Storm, Nightcrawler, who are all and Jean Grey, of course, who were all introduced in X-Men Apocalypse, one movie beforehand. So we're not really invested into these characters. We're not really invested into the Jean Grey Cyclops romance. We're not really invested in who Storm is. We like Quicksilver, except all he got was a little few quick, cool moments and not really a lot of character development, including his relationship with Magneto. And the only moments that shine were when Magneto's on screen, where he basically does the same thing he does every X-Men movie, where he turns bad and he turns good. And yeah. And the only character that shines in this movie, I think, is Charles Xavier, because he acts like an asshole. You don't really like him that much in this movie, and I think that's a great thing to pursue. And I wish they made this 2 movies for that reason. They made some older characters more interesting, and they had to introduce a newer character uh, to make it more impactful. Now, of course, Jean Grey is not a new character. She's a relatively new character, and well, she's made like she's a big deal, but she doesn't feel like it, if you know what I mean. She doesn't have an impact. She's not very interesting as a character. Not yet, exactly. Um, I wished we'd have more moments in X-Men Dark Phoenix where we are with Sophie Turner and she kind of plays with their powers, if you know what I mean. And I wish the movie was longer for that reason, because we don't really get a sense of how powerful Sophie Turner is and how that affects her throughout the movie. Now, another thing that Endgame did right was that they made interesting swaps with their cast of characters. That is, they made new alliances between characters we've never seen together on screen before. A good example is Thor and Rocket. Another great example is Doctor Strange and Iron Man. Unfortunately, we don't have that much interesting going on in that department. We did have one partial scene with Beast and Magneto, and I thought that was pretty interesting because they never really had time together to develop and to have a conversation. So I don't think the movie is entirely shit. I think it has some good moments like that, which I wish could have been developed more. And yeah, basically that's some of my thoughts about the movie. And they kind of they didn't kill him off. They injured him badly, Quicksilver, which was a disgrace. And we all know that the best part of those X-Men movies, the newer ones, was the Quicksilver scenes. All right, let's see another thing that Avengers Endgame did well in Infinity War. Huh. So basically, I wish Dark Phoenix could have had a little bit of a similar storyline to this. I think it would have been more interesting because the whole movie didn't have any stakes. I wish. Okay, so if I just off the top of my mind, how I would have done a Dark Phoenix movie was that you make the world into an apocalyptic world, maybe just like how it is in Logan, but it's stimulated by Charles Xavier, and somehow Jean Grey's powers are affecting it. I don't know. Change the timeline, whatever. You're already messing up with it. Um, or it can be like Jean Grey's power has become so strong that Earth is now uninhabitable, and make some time pass. Kill off some characters if you want. Kill off Magneto. I think that would be a great idea. Kill off Magneto at the start of the movie. Make Jean Grey destroy half the world, and then kind of figure out, have these other ragtag mutants that didn't get a lot of screen time beforehand, and they make, in that process, they make these alliances that are not so common, uh, and they have to figure out a way. It's problem solving. They have to figure out a way to fix the mistakes that they did and Jean Grey did. And I think that would have been a much more interesting movie where everything is so grim. I don't know. This doesn't feel like a movie where, because the whole time when Jean Grey is suffering, I don't feel like the whole world is in danger. I just feel like Jean Grey as a person might be lost. She might be sad. I don't think she's gonna die. So I'm not really worried at all throughout the movie. So there are no stakes in the movie. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest difference between Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, and the X-Men franchise and how it ended. It's how they deal with stakes and tension. I no, I never felt any tension. Even the scenes where you're supposed to feel tension. I thought the most tense moment was when Magneto's helmet was crushing on his head, on his face. That was the best moment, one of the best moments of the movie. I don't know about Charles Xavier being forced up to walk up the stairs, because that was kind of funny in a horrible, non-PC way. So, yeah, this movie, I don't like it. I don't like how it ended. In my heart, Logan will always be the ending, or even Days of Future Past. I think, yeah, Logan is probably my definitive canon ending. Anything after Apocalypse is, nah, it's not real. So that's what I thought about X-Men Dark Phoenix, and I'm gonna go see John Wick 3 tomorrow, so I'll probably do a review on that soon. Alright.